Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. This is our off-air podcast that we do on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please, I implore you, over the past 2 weeks, we have been talking to different teachers here in Charlotte, trying to clear their Amazon wish list. So if you got $5, $10, $20, or if you got a lot of money, just buy one thing. I saw one teacher had just a stapler.
Oh,
for a class. That's it. $5.
okay, stapler.
So hit up the Miguel and Holly Instagram, and you can see the links for all the different teachers. So if you want to just do one, pick one randomly, or if you can do them all from each list, please help out our teachers. Mm-hmm. Holly, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm glad it's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've been having a rough time lately, I think. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's fine.
What has made it such a rough time?
Work. I don't know. I just feel like I'm struggling a little bit.
Let's talk about it. This is the time to do it.
I guess. I can't talk about a lot of it because it's like insider radio stuff, but I just feel like I've been really struggling with doing this job in the way that I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And so that's frustrating. I feel like I'm not very good at what I'm doing. And I'm just struggling with it.
In your experience of your whole radio career, have you ever been in this position before where, a few things have been said, commented on, things that you need to adjust? Has it ever been at this level? Or do you think that working for such a huge company like we do, it's been more, what's the word? Magnified? Maybe that's the best word to use.
Yeah. That's a good question. And I think it's both. Like, yes, I have felt this way before,
Okay.
but like every time it always feels new, I guess, and different. And we're at a different level now than we were previously. So maybe it feels more, and I'm older now. So I don't know. Yes, I have felt this way before, but there's more parts and pieces to it. And we are at a higher level and the company is bigger. And so, yes, weirdly, to the both of those questions, like the both options is yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also I tend to think that I'm still maybe intermittently, I don't know, going through some depression. So maybe that is adding to it in a way that is amplifying the feelings that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. And I realized, I don't remember who I was talking to about this. I think it was my therapist actually, who has recommended some new, because I see a psychiatrist, like I see a PA, like a psychiatrist's PA, and she just goes so fast. And sometimes I feel like she doesn't really know my whole story, weirdly, because I got kind of like shuffled and handed off to her for a different reason. And so I'm on medicine for anxiety, and I think that's pretty under control. Like I don't have some of the intense anxiety that I had like a couple years ago or whatever. So I'm on medicine for that, but I'm not on any kind of antidepressant, and I don't really want to be, because I was always afraid of having to just be on it for life. But also, the interesting journey along my mental health is that like runs in my family. Depression runs in my family for sure. And I was on an antidepressant like during the early Kramer days. Miguel, this would have been about like 2009 or maybe 2010, I think, is when I got on antidepressants. And then I got off when I got pregnant, because you can't really do that through all 3 trimesters. And that was difficult to get off of the Zoloft, which is what I was on, because you get the brain zaps, which is a thing that people know about. And so I had a detox from all that. And then I got back on antidepressants in like 2018 because a lot was going on. That was when stuff with my mom was all going on and some other stuff. And then in 2020 is when I discovered TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. I did the endorsement with NeuroSpa TMS, and I used TMS to get off of the medication for the second time I got off Zoloft. And so I always look back at 2020 and 2021 as like these like glowing years because there was a lot going on. Like obviously I don't want to take away from like the suffering that happened during the pandemic, but me personally, I was like in a really good spot in my life in 2020 and 2021. Not only were like good things going well for me personally, but also I think as I laid this out to my therapist, I'm like, I also did TMS during those years and I was feeling better. So it was like both. Like there was great stuff happening in my life, but there was also the TMS that was happening and I had got off Zoloft. And then we moved, in 2022 and I haven't done TMS since 2021 and I'm not on anything and some shit went down like life does. Life hands it to you sometimes. And I've just been sort of in a rut since then and I was telling my therapist this and she's like, "Well, was as we were discussing how intense it can be for me, she's like, I think that your next steps, like, she's like, I want you to do some homework. And she gave me some new psychiatrist options that she recommends. And she's like, I was like, you're right. I either need to get back on medication, I need to do TMS again, or I need to look into that ketamine therapy. It's got to be one of those three because I can't just keep going raw dogging it, as it were.
Oh,
Save that.
With my mentals. And so I was like, oh my God, like I haven't really treated my lingering depression, lifelong battling depression since 2021. Like, and as I talked about that with my therapist, I was like, well, no fucking wonder I'm a fucking mess. Like in the fall of last year, like fall and winter of last year, it was really bad. Like just one day, like before we started a podcast, I just went to like that side of the room underneath that TV and I just sat and cried and cried and sat and cried and cried. And then I was like, okay, get your shit together. And so I like wiped my shit all up and I was like, hey, like, I don't like to
Talked
admit
about-
when it's wrong. I
Right.
don't like to admit when something's wrong
Mhm.
because I'm supposed to have it all together. I am the person who has my shit together always. And so it's embarrassing and it feels embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. It feels embarrassing and it feels like, because that's what depression does to you, keeps you isolated, keeps you not wanting to speak about it. And so I was like, yeah, I got to do something because I just don't feel joyful at all. Zero. I mean, so I have good days, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
And I do think there's a PMDD tie in here because it is worse when it's like leading up to my period.
Right.
But like on the weeks that it's not, I do feel like I listened to some good music while I was cooking dinner yesterday, but I also don't feel joyful. And so I miss that. And so anyway, all this to say, I think it's both what's going on with work and how we're in this weird
Revamp. maybe?
whatever we are in. Yes, maybe we'd call it that or like
I
a
don't think
figuring
so.
out
Yeah.
or
Tightening?
a tightening.
I think it's just that-
adjusting.
I think it's the evolution.
Yeah.
I think it's the evolution of how we do things because things are always changing.
Correct.
And
What audiences want
right.
is changing.
And
And so we have to evolve with those times.
And I think what happens is the longer you do this, the harder it is to make those adjustments. I mean, that's why you have so many older people in radio that still refuse to do social media because for 30 years of their life, they never had to pick up their phone and do stuff after work.
Right.
And so then when you have the young marketing person that's like, hey, can you do the give me my money challenge? And they're like, why?
No.
What the fuck does it do with what I do on air? Like, why? This has nothing to do with my performance. And it's hard to sort of make those adjustments. And so the older you get, the more hard it gets because we just get into a formula of doing things.
Right.
And so absolutely, it can be jarring to be
Right.
like, oh, we got to change the approach and how we do stuff.
Right. So it's that, I think, combined with what is happening in my head,
Mhm.
it's just sort of a perfect storm of not great. So that's how I am.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think the past probably 6 months, I've been feeling that just because, when you go from being at the top of your game where everybody is like looking at you and, being applauded and you're being sought out for advice. And then you go to a new place where everyone's like,
No one literally gives a fuck.
no, none. And then you just person by person, day by day. That's why I always say like morning radio is like a marathon. because
Mhm.
you don't just come out of the gates. You're not instantly number one. People don't change their habits. I mean, listen, for you, those of you that lived in Tampa, there's a reason why you still listen to us now as we've moved, because we became your routine
Mhm.
and your
Friends.
friends. And it's a lot of it's routine. Like you get
Mhm.
used to hearing blown off at 740 and us laughing about certain things. And so there's a reason why you don't listen to someone new who's coming to Tampa. You still listen to us. And the same thing goes to the Charlotte audience. They have shows they've been listening to. And so we have to prove daily and give them a reason why. But sometimes that can be tiring because
And
you have to
it's
be A+ every day.
and it's really rare when and for example, like everyday life, when you go into a new friend group, not all friend groups are going to invite you into these inside jokes and like you're really going to enjoy time with brand new people that you have no idea about. It takes
Mhm.
a really special kind of person to really incorporate you into this friend group, and that's kind of what we do. We're
Mhm.
trying to incorporate Charlotte the same way that you guys have incorporated the Tampa people and built that up. So
Mhm.
it's not going to be immediately like that how it was in Tampa
Right.
here, because you have to once
Right.
again invite everyone and include them, not just laugh about the things you laughed about or did in Tampa.
Right.
Right.
And I'm
So
not saying that it's bad or wrong. I'm just saying it's difficult.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, going back to the question you asked, earlier, Kelvin, I mean, I just thought back to like, especially when we first started in Tampa. And I remember I was talking to a guy who lived in Sarasota, and we had probably been on the air for like a month. And like we were just getting all of these hate messages of like, I miss Jade, and who the fuck are you too? And it's actually, I wish I could go back now, because there were some messages that I would get years later of people being like, oh my God, I love Tampa
That
Bay
was so
Secrets.
funny. And you
It was
scroll
so
up
funny. And then you scroll up and you see when they were like, fuck you, bitch, get out of here. Nobody wants you in Tampa radio. And it's like,
you
wait a
kind of have
minute,
to wonder,
girl.
like, if they saw that.
Right. I'm like, did you ever scroll back and
Did
see those
you
Facebook messages 4 years ago?
Scroll, bitch.
Mhm.
Oh.
But I distinctly remember one
Oh,
weekend in
no.
particular driving to Sarasota. This guy I've been talking to for like 3 weeks. We'd only been there for a month or so. And I was just so like, I remember our boss was, he would never say this, but I remember he was like, I pull these people out of Panama City and they're fucking up my shit here in Tampa. And then the listeners weren't really liking us. And I was just like, we're just screwing this all up because I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, do you want to go to the bar here? Because we just started talking and
I
I was,
remember Sarasota.
yes, Sarasota boy. And I
Yep.
remember Phoebe, who used to do middays. I remember her texting me that Saturday and being like, hey, it won't always be this way. I know it's tough because I've been looking through the Hot 1015 messages and I know it's really tough, but just know it won't always be like this. So we do have these waves. And then 2 years later, when I thought we were on a good ride, we had a new boss who told us that we were unlistenable.
Unlistenable.
And I remember
Yes.
going to my car, crying, calling our live coach and being like, do I need to quit? Like, am I not good at this job?
And we were also like, get the hard drive.
Right. Save all the audio because we're probably going to get fired.
Yeah.
So this happens, I think. The longer you're in a career, you have these ups and downs because you can't always be at a high. I mean, even just equating this, because I've been wrapped up in politics this week with the DNC.
Mhm.
And one of the political podcasts I listened to, they're saying that like Democrats, or if you're a fan of Kamala Harris, get ready because she will make a misstep between now and election day because she's a human.
Because I was going to say there's human beings involved.
Right. And like everything so far has been like great, 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 great. And this week has been perfect with everything. There will come something in September, or maybe at the debate, or maybe somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That is just life.
Mhm.
That is just life. So we're just in that like building up season where we had a really great May and June, and then July wasn't so great. August probably won't be that great. And then maybe hopefully September will blast out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just rebuilding is painful. Growing is painful. But then once you get there, you're like, so glad we did it. But just getting there fucking sucks. And this applies for anything.
Right.
Anything. I remember
Everything.
going to high school and being like, I conquered middle school. Oh my God. Fuck, it sucks. I remember going to my English teacher, Miss Waits. I would go to her class for lunch during my freshman year. She's the one that gave me Harry Potter
Mm.
because I was just like, I don't fit in. we have all these people from different middle schools in 9th grade that I don't know. And I just felt like such a failure my freshman year. And then it just slowly started to build up. And then it did the whole thing again in college. It's just a cycle of life.
Yeah, it's just it is. It's just you are on top sometimes and sometimes you're on the bottom.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that my bottom is coinciding with my personal bottom. So, and we're not talking about the gays, but still, it feels very, I don't know. I feel sort of like I'm just floating through the days. And I hate that. Because it's like I don't want to be that way, but I think you just have to get through it. So I'm looking into money wise, like what's going to be best for me to help get myself out of this.
To invest in yourself,
Mhm.
right? Because if you keep doing the same thing every day, coasting along, you're going to get the same results, as I've been told, right? So,
Right.
No, it's true. And so that's why, like, actually, for about 10 minutes before we started the podcast, I had some time. So I looked up each 3 of the psychiatrists that my therapist recommended. God, sometimes shit is so expensive, but you're right. It is an investment to you. And so I'm going to look into that. And then also I have to decide, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to go down the medication route? Do I want to go back to TMS? Do I want to try this ketamine thing? There's a lot of different balls in the air to juggle because it's like, okay, well, medicine could be like a long-term solution because TMS, and obviously I'm not an endorser of them anymore, does work. Like, holy shit, it worked for me. But it didn't work for me forever, which is something that can happen when you do TMS, but it's not for everyone. Like, it worked for me while I was doing it. And then eventually, like, you need to go again and get either a boost or start all over with the whole program. And so I'm like, it's more expensive, than medication, obviously. And my insurance won't cover that. So also then you have to look at, okay, well, what about this ketamine therapy, which could be really good. And I've talked to a friend of ours who has done it and did a podcast while he did it. And he was like, I highly recommend it. But then I'm also thinking, is that a situation like TMS where it's going to be great for like a few months and then you have to continually go back? And that's also expensive because it's not covered. So it's just, I have to just do some research. And then also if we do go the medication route, I'm not doing Zoloft again because for me, I don't like the side effects. I don't like that. And so I'd have to figure out a new medication.
Well, if there's anyone that knows how to research and do it well, it's you.
I
TikTok
can
queen.
research the shit out of something.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's how I am. Sorry. I know it's not exciting. And
No, this is the mental health
It's real,
update.
girl.
Yeah. Kelvin,
so,
how are you feeling? Not
Feeling,
doing, but how are you feeling?
Feeling. I don't know. It's going through waves. There are days where I'm like so excited. I'm getting back in the rhythm. Like I think when we came back from San Diego, that was fucking rough. I don't know what it was. And I'm very hyper aware. Like I don't try to complain about being tired or sleepy when I know Miguel comes in way earlier than I do. So like I try to be very mindful about that. And but man, that week after San Diego was rough. This week I feel much better. The way that we've implemented these new things on the list where I know what I need to do and accomplish has been so good for my mental health, where I don't feel like a failure at the end of the day. So that's been good. Overall, though, I don't know. Sometimes I do question where I'm at in this career. I think I've had such a really maybe uncommon is the right word, or untraditional career in radio. And sometimes I just think, where am I headed? Where am I going with this? And what am I truly passionate about? So that's been kind of weird because I for so long, right after when I first got into radio, it was build until you get to that spot that you want to. And then I got to that spot rather quickly and then I let it go. And I thought that's what I wanted. And then for a minute, I didn't want it anymore. And then I'm now questioning myself if I want it again. But there was such a different energy when I was building up to try to become a morning show host compared to now. Like, maybe I did enjoy it a little bit more, but I don't feel like I have that hunger to get back to being a morning show host. So that's why it confuses me. So do I want to be a morning show host again? What am I thinking? And I don't even know where to go about it. It's not like I can be like, all right, guys, well, I'm going to go do an internship, figure it out. I can't. I got fucking bills to pay and responsibilities. So I don't understand how people in their later life find out what they're truly passionate about. Um, so yeah.
That's a good question too. I
Mm,
think some life coaches can help you with that, but
Yeah.
also it does take a lot of introspection.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
And I've
really-
never been an that person.
Yeah.
Introspective person.
Mhm,
You just sort of fall into it and just sort of ride it.
Well, yes.
I didn't say fall on it and ride it. I said fall in. Well,
Well, I've never
same.
done that.
Well-
But yeah. So that's been on my noggin for a while. And that's been hard because I talk to people all the time and they give me suggestions and I'm like, I don't feel like I don't.
You have to feel it.
I have
It's
to
not
feel it,
something right.
but I haven't felt anything.
Mm.
I haven't felt anything. So yeah, I think like moments and sparks of joy that I've had is when like I've been incorporated into this show much more, and that's been really great. But yeah, I mean that's probably the only time I've felt a spark about it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm worried about winter. I think the reason why I don't look forward to winter so much is because I can't be outside as much.
Mm.
I really dislike walking the dog in the cold and doing it, and just doing it for another round really makes me unhappy. And I know that's totally first world problems. Like I know people are going way through harder situations, but that's my personal hell. And I'm gonna try to think about how Erica Chanel, the drag queen that we had on a few days ago, how she said, I'm trying not to focus on saying, I'm going to be so tired. I'm going to be so tired. I'm going to try to focus on being like, I'm grateful. I get to walk my dog. And yes, it's a little cold, but I have the option to buy myself some, I don't know, thermocool, thermo-warm, whatever gear. And I'm
Yeah.
going to try to have a more positive mindset about it because winter is coming. There's no fucking, denying
Like
it.
Game of
or-
Thrones said,
Yes.
winter
Winter
is
is
coming,
coming.
bitch.
Winter is coming. So I'm gonna try to be positive. I always say that, and then there are days where I'm like, I fucking hate it.
Right.
So I'm gonna try.
I think there is something to be said, and I've been in situations where I had to change my mental attitude about something, where I had to say, I think one of the biggest things when we were in Panama City the last time.
Is this what Angela said?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I remember I was just like, I liked our show at that time and our coworkers and my friends, but I just felt like at that time I was looking to date. I was like, I want something more than just to be successful at my job. I want to have a successful personal life. But I felt like at the time, Panama City was not offering me, as a gay Black man, the options to explore that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember our life coach, Angela, telling me, well, just move. Why don't you just move? And I'm like, well, I can't. She was like, who's keeping you there? Are you trapped? Is someone handcuffing you to the couch, to the studio? You can go somewhere. You are not bound by anything. Even if you're under contract, you can't cross the street, but you can say I quit and move to a different city and go work at 7-Eleven. You're never trapped.
Mm-hmm.
You're never trapped. So you have to tell yourself you are choosing to go to work. You are choosing to live there. And the things that you do, you are making a conscious choice. And so you have to find the positive things within that choice that you're making.
Mhm.
Right.
And that really changed my outlook for that last year we were there. And I was like, and then I feel like that changed my then on-air presentation, which I do believe is what then helped us get to Tampa that second time around. And so it really is a lot of like tricking your mind a little bit and just sort of pulling it along and being like, all right, come on, let's spark some joy here and let's do something a little bit different. Because life can be a rut for a lot of times, because
Mhm.
that's what we do. Every single one of us go to work, we come home, we make dinner, we watch our shows, rinse and repeat. And then you try to find a little joy on the weekends, and then you do it all over again.
Right.
And then the next time you look up, it's Christmas again. And you're like, fuck, how do we get here?
Yes.
But that's why you have to infuse those moments, things of different, something of like doing something out of your norm.
Right.
If it's
Yeah.
I
like
agree.
hiking
Yes.
isn't your thing, go hiking, or going on a random trip that you never go on, something different to provide that brain stimulation
Mhm.
out of the normal cycle of things that you do.
Yeah. And I will say I have been in a bit of a rut for a while now. So hopefully that wheel will start moving. It's all linked,
Yeah.
all of it. So yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Cosign.
I was just thinking this yesterday. I'm like, I want to explore this with a therapist. And I don't think about it because it only happens once a year. But I really always get really sad on my birthday. And I don't know why. And I don't think I've ever talked about this before. I don't know why. And I spent some time yesterday because I had to do this football thing yesterday. So I had a couple hours by myself yesterday responding to text and Instagram messages. And I remember like being young and turning like 11 and being like sad on my birthday. And I was like, huh.
Do you know why you were sad when you were 11?
Well, that's what I don't know. I want to explore that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's why when my birthday is during the week, and poor Abe, he's always like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to go to Ruru's? Do you want to go get a bird? Like, tell me, I will take you wherever you want to go. And I'm always like, I want to spend time by myself. After work, I usually like to get a massage and get a pedicure or something and just spend some time reflecting. And it usually takes me down to like, oh, look at all these things you've done this year. But then there's also a little streak of sadness that I've always had, but I've never been able to put my finger on exactly why that is. And I don't know.
So this is just what my therapist would do with me. You said when you were 11.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the earliest you remember being sad on your birthday, or do you think it goes back even further?
No, it's probably 11. As I'm thinking about the circumstances of that time, without spending a lot of time delving into it, I would think it's probably because we had just moved from Denver to Atlanta to take care of my grandmother. And we moved that July. Now, just if you're new to the story, in the night from ages 6 till 11, I lived in Denver, my mom and I. And then in the summer of 97, my grandmother had a stroke. And that July, we flew from Denver to Atlanta to make sure she was okay. And then 2 days later, my mom was like, so we're actually going to just stay in Atlanta to take care of grandma and move in with her.
How did she get all your belongings, by the way?
So she ended up driving back, I think, once the school year started and we got my grandmother settled.
Okay.
She ended up flying to Denver, packing up the stuff in a U-Haul and then driving it back.
Wow.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I never got to say bye to any of my friends. And I had all these plans between 6th and 7th grade. And I never got to say bye. Now, remember, this is 97. So there was no like email addresses, no cell phones. I think I had like an address book with my friends' phone numbers in it that I eventually got. But like when I got to Atlanta and I thought I was just going to be there for a week, I didn't get to say bye. So fast forward to that August, my birthday, when I turned 11. And I remember like, when it turned midnight, I was like up that night. And I remember being like, here I am by myself. I don't have any of my friends. I'm at a new school. And so that I think is like where my mind was at that time.
Man, that explains everything. Maybe not everything, but I can find a thread because when you think about it, you don't really have memories prior to like 6. Yes, you do have some memories of being in Atlanta prior to age 6.
Right.
But they're very like
fleeting. It's like 2 or 3.
childhood
Right.
memories, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't, especially the older we get, the less we remember when we were like 4 or 5. Who knows, right?
Right.
So your entire childhood is spent in Colorado, building relationships, building those friends. And 11 is as we already know, is a very impressionable age because you're on the precipice of childhood and young adulthood. This is my very unprofessional, very off the cuff opinion. I think you have PTSD from that. And let me tell you something about PTSD, especially if it revolves around a specific event. Every year, you're going to get triggered about that time. We've talked about a little bit, but not gone in depth about just how traumatizing it was for you to be living in one spot, not know that you're moving away from it, pop up in another, and then literally never see that life again. You started an entire new life without being told. And, you know, I know your mom listens to the podcast. It's not like this is like all like she shouldn't feel like it's like,
An
oh my God, I
attack or
fucked my kid
anything.
up. Right. But at
No,
the
this
same
is what
time,
the decision she had to
To
make because
make
of
means.
money.
things
Right.
happen and life happens.
Right.
That doesn't change the fact that it was traumatic for you
Mhm.
Right.
because you think about it, you literally your life changed overnight and you were friendless. Yes, you had your family that you didn't even know,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
including your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
You had no friends, no family, no nothing. You had completely lost your anchor. You had lost all tether to reality. You were just floating in this void and you had nothing. So, has this not been a common theme in your life of being afraid to have nothing? No one.
Mm-hmm.
Have you not surrounded yourself in every city that we go to with friends, a big crew? How deep does Miguel roll on the weekends and the parties and the after parties?
The hosting.
Right.
The
You give
hosting.
people what you always wanted.
Yes, you are
Mm.
the centerpiece of all of these friend groups so that no one ever has to feel alone like you felt alone. This might be the keystone, the most traumatic moment that you do need to unpack in therapy so that you can start to actually heal that little boy because that little
Mm.
boy is asking for you to see him. And it's
Mm.
never louder than on your birthday
Right.
because yes, like the trauma happened in July and it was like, holy shit, but it really hit you on your birthday where you had no one to celebrate you,
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
which was less than a month later, or like a month
Right.
later.
Right.
And so you were waking up with no one, nothing in this void. And I think that it is a trauma response every birthday and a reminder of not having anyone or anything. Unprofessional opinion.
Makes a lot of sense. You don't need therapy, girl. Don't waste your money. Cash out my girl so she can get her ketamine.
I'm about to say.
Let's help
Please
each
help.
other.
Please help. I'm depressed, but I can figure your shit out, just not mine.
I'm about to say, hey, so I'll comp September's Netflix. You don't got to send the $10 in September. You good. You good. You good. You good.
Period.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God. But
so
no.
anyway, I do think because there are certain things in life that when that anniversary of whatever it was comes up,
Right.
and it's not even necessarily a conscious thing. I discovered one of my triggers like in the spring, and I was like, I was doing some weird behavior, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't even know why I'm doing this. I said this to my fiance, and he's like, well, this is around the time that XYZ, and I was like, oh, I didn't even
Mm.
think about that. And I'm
Right.
over here displaying behavior that I would have displayed when the thing happened. You know what I mean? Like we don't necessarily think about it, but those yearly triggers are there for traumatic events.
It's really fascinating how like your body, how like you're not thinking about it, but your body feels it.
Your body keeps the score.
Yeah. And so that's just such a perfect example of like how your body can feel and hold on to the stress and to the anxiety, and it can manifest itself into physical forms.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, like my husband Abe, you know, his sister passed away, and so around the time that she passed, he'll always start to like feel prickly, and I'm always like, are you okay? And he's like, I don't. I think it's around that time, and then we're both like, got
Yeah.
it. All right, so let's take the proper precautions so you have the space and the time to, you know, meditate and to think about it and to talk to your family and reminisce and go over those memories like they are so great about.
Yeah.
So, but it makes sense. And I've never put two and two together on like, why my birthday? Like I said, if it's during the weekends, because usually I'm surrounded by people and we're partying and drinking and it's like, you know, it's get wiped away. But when it's during the weekend, you're at work.
Yeah,
and
you
you're not.
can't really do like a big celebration. Like, yes, you can go out to dinner,
Right.
or you got to do the Lion King thing beforehand. But like on
Right.
the actual day of your birthday, if it's a day where you're not surrounded by people, yeah, it's gonna be
It's gonna be
right
on there.
there. Popped
Yeah.
out. You can't like that voice, that little 11-year-old Miguel is going to be louder because you need to go have a parts work session and speak to that little guy.
No, that's so true. Because I can just see because of course it was surrounded by food. So I had like a bologna sandwich and I had like a bunch of tater tots that were in the oven. And I was just like, here we are.
Which is, I mean, we have talked about your relationship with food and how food was a friend and was a comfort. So that all ties together as well. But
and so, of course, in that moment of loneliness, I made a bologna sandwich and some tater tots. So it all goes together. It's so interesting how those moments, because that probably was one of the most impactful moment, because and I've talked about this before, where when I started school that year and I told my school therapist that I wanted to kill myself because I was just so sad that I wasn't around my friends anymore. And then the therapist called the house and left the voicemail.
Not the voice.
Which then my grandmother, who was already feeling bad that we had moved for her, heard it. And then she was crying when I got home from school. And then I felt horrible because I'd never seen my
feelings some more.
Right. And I was like, well, let me just suck it up, because I made my grandmother cry. And it was just like this whole, like, if anything could have played out where, like, there was not another thing that could have made that situation worse.
Like,
it was just like every wrong thing that could have gone wrong happened.
And interestingly, here's how I'll relate this to. Is so my daughter just turned 11, right? So Maya just turned 11.
Don't take her out of the school.
Move her to Charlotte without her choice.
What would you?
And then another Miguel happens. And then she'll be a successful morning show host.
And then I will have caused the thing that I created. Like, oh my God,
and then you live with her when she's pregnant.
What?
The cycle just continues.
Oh my God, kill me.
The cycle just continues.
Jesus, I will break this cycle.
Break the chains.
Breaking the chains. Okay, the chain breaker. You give me all the names like Daenerys. Breaker of chains. Listen. So, she just turned 11, and I think it's interesting just to relate it to you, Miguel. This is not really so much about her as it is about you. However, since I have experience with a child who has turned 11 within the last week, I'm trying not to say like this.
I love it when you call her.
I do.
I love it when you call.
I love that bee. I love it.
I love it when you call her that.
Love that little bitch. I love her. But she is my home girl, and I really do it's wild how much you love your kids. Like, I love her so much, and I love who she is, and just I love her. However, and I didn't get it right away. She has had, let me take it back. She will have 5 weekends of birthday celebrations. I mean, in true Leo fashion.
Yeah.
This little mama had a sleepover party, very small, just with a couple close friends. She had a water slide at her dad's house. She and I went to Busch Gardens and then Dave & Buster's on her actual birthday. This coming weekend, her dad's dad and stepmom are coming into town. They're going to the zoo. And then next weekend, my fiance's parents have been out of the country, so they have to give her the gifts that they never got to give her.
Damn.
That is over a month of birthday celebration.
Yes.
So I'm just like looking at this going like, this is insane. But on the day of her actual birthday, we did the Busch Gardens and Dave & Buster's, had a wonderful day. It was fantastic. I mean, what more can you ask for? She did what she wanted. She did everything she wanted that day. So I'm laying with her in bed, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I realized that she's crying. And I was like, oh no, what's going on? Like, tell me why are you feeling like this? What's going on with your tears? And she's like, I'm just sad. I'm like, well, why are you sad? And she's like, my birthday's over. And this is why I didn't get it. I was like,
you're like,
we've had 3 weekends of birthdays and you have 2 more coming up. So it's really not. And I'm like, the first thing you do as a parent, like, it's almost imperceptible to you have to hit the brakes, but I didn't, because I told her why she shouldn't be sad.
Right.
Why are you sad? Because we don't want kids to be sad. It makes us uncomfortable as adults. And I'm like telling her why she shouldn't be sad. And she's like, no, I know. But like the day, like my birthday is over and I'm 11 now and I'm not a kid anymore. Like, I have to grow up. And I was like, oh! Like, I'm starting to cry thinking about it. I was
big
like,
storm coming. She's right.
But that's right. The thing, Kelvin, she is right.
Yeah.
Right.
And what am I supposed to say to that to make her not be sad? I was just like, oh, well, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, yes.
Well,
I was
yes.
like, yeah. I said,
Yeah.
okay. Well, the good news is it doesn't happen all at once. I was like, and to be fair, 11 is still considered a kid, and so is 12. I said, but you're right. You're entering middle school. You're growing up. Like, we're preparing for periods and things, right? So I'm like, so you're not wrong. Like, yes, this is true. And maybe it does feel like this is the birthday where things are switching for you. And so I said, that's okay to feel that way. You are valid with these emotions. You should feel this way if you want to, and you can cry about it. I'm just going to be here with you. I don't have any words to tell you that's going to make it better right now, but like, it's okay to feel this way.
It makes sense to grieve.
Yeah.
It does. And so I say all that to say, one little side story about Maya. Miguel, age 11, I think, maybe for you too at that age, was a bit of a letting go of your childhood.
An accelerated pace too.
At an
Yeah.
accelerated pace, because you suddenly had to be more responsible. Like, you were not just this kid living with your mom anymore. Now your mom's got to take care of your grandmother,
Right.
and kid's over. Okay. She can't take care of your grandmother and you.
Right.
And you're also kind of having to watch out for your grandmother. And it was really a death of the childhood in a, like Kelvin said, accelerated way. And so I don't know if all kids feel this way at 11, but I think you and Maya do have some similarities in the way that you process things brain-wise and think deeply about them. And I don't even know if this would be true for you, but it could have been, not only just I don't have my friends, but I don't have my friends, and now I'm not a kid. Like, I have to be responsible now. So it's like a double whammy.
I think there was also too a perception of, and you know what? I should go back and read my journals because I think that's when I started journaling, was around that time in my life.
Which is great for you, by the way. I'm
yeah.
glad you
So I
did.
started like writing down. I should go back and read those from age 11. But I think I perceived that my life was going to take a different course at that moment. And I obviously didn't know what that meant. And I don't know what, if we would have stayed in Denver, I don't know where I would have ended up. Like I knew I loved radio and media, student council. Like I remember, for 7th grade, me and this girl, Helen Pack, were going to try to get condoms in our middle school because like that was already starting to happen. And we were like, we're going to change the world, So like I was already on that path.
You were that person.
Yes, 100%. And I think it was just like, well, where are my people that want to do that with me? Because I had established those friends in that circle from elementary school into that first year of middle school. And so I was like, what does the rest of my life look like? I don't know what path it's going to take because I'm back in this city that's my hometown, but it's also foreign to me now because I have come of age in Denver. And I was, and then also too, like, I was very much, even though like I was the gay, like happy, joyful kid, I very much like sounded like my cousins and like my family. Just the way I spoke, my accent, my dialect, which you hear come out sometimes. And then when we moved to Denver, it all got wiped away. And so then coming back to Atlanta, everybody was like, girl, why are you talking white? Why you sound like that?
Like, I just grew up in Denver. Hello.
I was like, girl, I remember my precious auntie, Auntie Allison. Her and I used to go back and forth about this when I was 11 because she used to say, "Oh, look at that big old house," and I'd be like, "Auntie Allison, what is big old? Is it a big old house or is it just a bigger house?" And she was like, "If you don't shut your big ass head up,"
I can't. Like, I would have been like,
"Shut your."
And even at our wedding, she was there and she reminded me of that story. She was like, "Remember when you used to talk to me about saying big old back in the day?" And I was like, "I'm sorry. I was always a know-it-all. I'm so sorry."
Very precocious.
She said, "You still got that big old head, though."
She did. You had the little dumbo ears.
Jesus.
But it's so interesting when you go back on and take a look at all those things. So that is something I'll be writing down to explore.
Yes, definitely do, because the hard part with doing the work is that the work is not like a one and done.
Right.
Unfortunately, the work is not just like, oh, that's it. Like, if you really want to do the work, you have to it's painful to do it, and it's going to be messy, and it can take a while, but it's worth it.
And we're so used to instant results too.
Right.
That's where my
know.
headspace is
Oh my
at.
God,
I know
especially
it's
now.
continuous, but
Mhm.
I want it now. I want it tomorrow.
I know, right? Like, we all do, but that's the point of being human, I think.
Yeah. Jenny said, I lost my mom at 11. PTSD is real, Miguel, and it's okay to talk and let it out. You also aren't alone with the feelings of losing someone at that age and not being able to understand it. I had to move my boys second year of high school and second year of middle school to a new area, and I'm positive it has effects on them. Until they're ready to talk, I just try to help guide them.
Yeah.
My oldest is now a Marine and seems comfortable. My middle school son is still figuring it out. The area is good.
The school is not so much.
Got it. So yeah, it is. And I guess the takeaway too, if you have kids now, like when you move in, like my mom knows, but I also want to say this too, if you have gone through this process with your kids, is I think just letting them say goodbye in a proper way. And like, this was the 90s. My mom had very little resources to make this move happen in the first place. And so
Right.
her buying a ticket for me to go back to Denver just to say bye and then to come back in 1997, girl, ain't nobody trying to pay for that.
Right. No,
So
makes
we
sense.
completely understand. But now that we know that it happened, we can deal with it. So if you are going through that with your kids,
Right.
something to think about.
They say kids are resilient, but like, you shouldn't test it.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
maybe let's
ignore
not
it.
test the
Right.
boundaries of resiliency.
Yes.
Like,
Let's just see what happens with this situation.
kids are impacted by a lot more, and I think it's because we hopefully are starting to see children as people, like, just small people. That's all.
Producer Calvin, what's your social media people can follow along?
At Kelvin Live, TikTok, Twitter, but really, I'm just on Instagram.
Holly?
Radio Holly, mostly on Instagram, also on Threads, occasionally on X is so awful lately, and then TikTok. I like to view my TikToks.
I am at Miguel Fuller on Instagram, TikTok. I think I'm gonna delete Be Real this weekend.
You're done. It's
Bye.
done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
It's
It's done.
done.
Bye.
It's done. I think I did my last one. I'm like, I think I'm done. So
Aw.
sad. But yes, on Threads, I'm gonna start to get back on Threads so I can see. I peeked a little bit and saw Holly up there just posting it. I was like, get it,
I'm
girl.
all over in Threads. Like, I be like responding to people that I don't know who they are, giving my expert
I
opinion
know,
on
I
stuff. I'm like, well,
threading.
I actually don't think. Like,
And that's
I'm
what
like,
I thought. It popped up when I pulled it open, and it was like you responding to someone. I'm like, who is that person?
to like a random person with hundreds of comments. Like, anyone gives a fuck what I think, and like, I think I'm somehow like anonymous. No, it's Radio Holly on Threads, so I need to be careful about what the hell I'm saying. But anyway, I like Threads. I have always liked the written communication like that more than just looking at photos. I love reading because it's different for me.
Well, follow me on there at Miguel Fuller. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.